edition of We Are All Still Standing, and we are all here to advance the work of lead poisoning prevention in the state of Maryland. You've tuned in to the Maryland Department of the Environment Lead Poisoning Prevention Commission. I'm Ruth Ann Norton. I'm the current chair of the commission. I'm joined in the conference room by Fred Banks and Paula Montgomery. Okay, great. She changed her name once on me. I'm always checking. We're going to do a quick introduction of our commissioners. We will get to approval of our minutes, and we will have some presentations coming up. So we really appreciate the folks who are able to be here. I don't know if Grace has joined us from EPA or not. If not, I will at least ask if Wes Stewart is on the call to pull the new 6 pillars from EPA of or the 6 indicators of environmental health. And we'll talk a little bit about a strategic planning day. We want to be able to report at the end of 25 some concrete actions of movement on lead poisoning prevention, as this department and the state has done so well over the years. One thing I want to say to folks is, for folks who are kind of going through a lot of transition time and working with the federal agencies and state agencies, the state of Maryland is deeply committed to its excellence and pursuing all of its work on lead poisoning prevention. We're happy to report that HUD's programs are still open and operating. Many of the EPA programs are being reviewed and we're hopeful that they will move forward under review. Also, our CDC programs related to lead. So we have a lot to think about as we move forward in redirecting how we get these efforts, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. But Wendy, if we could go to the introduction of commissioners really quickly, just to take our role. And I'm here. I'm Ruth Ann.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Adam, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Adam Skolnick. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Multi-Housing Association, Commission member.
Allie?
Hi, I'm Allie Nestat. I'm the parent advocate for the commission.
I don't see Anna on. Barbara Moore?
Hi, I'm Barbara Moore. I'm a nurse practitioner and director of the lead poisoning program at Mount Washington Pediatric Hospital, commission member.
Benita Cooper's not able to make it today. I don't see Cliff on yet. Fred?
Fred Banks, program manager for lead poisoning prevention program at MDE.
Jacob?
Hi, Jacob Bentaken, owner of JVZ Management.
Mangela?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Angela Paul, nurse practitioner, nurse consultant for the Division of Early Childhood at Maryland State Department of Education, commission member. Thank you.
Michael?
Hi, Michael Ikniowski. I'm the representative from the Maryland chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and a retired pediatrician, retired from practice, but still active in pediatrics otherwise.
Nadia?
Hi everyone. Nadia calling in from New Orleans here for HBCU conference. I represent Young Gifted and Green, and super happy to be here. I'm based in primarily, usually day-to-day, Baltimore.
I thought you might be here today.
I know I would love to, but I'm at the Climate Consortium conference.
Fantastic. Great.
Nicola?
Hi, I'm Nicola Tran, Director of the Whole Home Energy and Repairs Program at the Department of Housing and Community Development.
Nicole?
Good morning, Nicole Hart, Deputy Commissioner, Home Ownership, Housing Preservation, DHCD, Baltimore City.
And Ruth Ann already introduced herself. We don't have any callers on the line, and it doesn't look like Susan's on. So that is everybody.
No, I'm on.
Oh, you're on?
Right
Oh,
there.
okay. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Susan Kleinhammer, accredited MDE risk assessor, principal of LedTech Services. Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Susan, your camera lens might need a little cleaning because you're very blurry.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to be able to see you. And all right, Wendy, if you could pull up the minutes from February of 25 and ask folks if there's any comments on the minutes. And Nadia, I think you had emailed me, you might have some comments on the minutes. But if anyone have any emendations or objections, please let us know from the commission.
Yeah, I was reviewing the meeting minutes last night and saw that the potential fraud case for lead certification in Baltimore City was not in the meeting minutes. I don't know if it was updated since last night, but I wanted to just add that as a flag for inclusion in the meeting minutes.
Okay, let me do that I will
So
add.
this is the discussion, folks, that we had on, I believe it's Green Environmental, is that what they're called? And the role of enforcement. We actually, I think it came out in the banner on January 10th. In December, Dr. Banks had raised that the department was doing some enforcement actions without detail at that time because they weren't ready to talk about that. It became public in the banner on January 10th, and we discussed it for sure around the need to support dollars on enforcement. What does enforcement look like so the commission could understand? We have made a request of the enforcement division here to give us a little more education on what is a great reputation for being an extraordinarily effective group of folks, just to give a little more transparency on how that process works within reason. So I appreciate, Nadia, you raising this. Are there any other things that you would like to raise around that, Nadia, or anyone else?
Yeah, if we have time today, I would love to have a more conversation / questions around it. Specifically interested in if there are any updates on number of homes impacted in Baltimore City and notification of tenants.
Dr. Banks has agreed to do that. We had a little bit of a pre-meeting on this, so he will do that when at the end of our new business, or right before we get to the strategic planning day updates. Fred, if you'll do that, and appreciate that. Are there other emendations? And I see Chris is on the line, maybe to participate or not. Any other emendations to the minutes? All right, can I get a motion to adopt the minutes with the amendation, please?
Motion to adopt the minutes with the amendments.
Okay, second. Thank you, Barbara. All in favor? Thank you, Fred. Okay. I think hearing no dissent, the minutes are adopted. Thank you. Legislative update I know there's a bill for the going in for the fees. I don't know if MDE wants to do an update that on, or Adam or Wes Stewart. Any updates on the Maryland Department of the Environment bill that we supported as a commission to increase the fees?
If I'm not mistaken, that bill got amended to take the fees out, but they added the fee increase to the BRFA. So it's going through the BRFA now, is the best of my recollection, but I could be wrong. If Wes is on, double check me on that.
Yeah, it is now over in the budget piece. Wes, do you have an update on that or?
Yes, all three of those hearings, so the Senate Bill 321 and House Bill 352 are the budget bills where that exact language was inserted, and both those hearings were conducted last week. But Senate Bill 250, the standalone fees bill, was also heard a while ago. But I don't know the status of the budget bills, but they normally will be several more weeks, I would expect.
And so the testimony's been taken on that, is that right?
Yes. All.
Okay. Yep. And Adam, is your side of the aisle still opposing those increases, or is there any update just to know where that stands in the discussions?
Well, I mean, yes, we're opposed to the change. I mean, as a group, but as I think you and Wes know and others know, I mean, the BRFA is pretty hard to get. The budget bill is pretty hard to get amended. So I would be shocked if they didn't pass in one way or another. But
okay, all right, And other legislation, Wes or Adam, to update, or anyone else here?
Oh,
Not
you
aware
Wes, I don't know.
lead specific. No, I'm not aware.
Great. All right. Thank you, Nicola.
Yeah, our departmental bill to allow nonprofits to work in our repair programs and administer grants directly did pass the Senate on Tuesday and crossed over into the House. So that's advancing, and so far there has been no opposition or questions or concerns about it.
And the House bill number, please.
Oh, that is a good question. I'm always mixing them up. I think it's 238.
Yeah. And House Bill 127, Senate Bill 238 is cross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So House Bill 127, Wes.
Yes, and
Yeah.
Senate Bill 238. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And so that would allow activities including the nonprofits to help administer some of the home repair that could include lead, right?
Right.
Okay. And really appreciate before HUD got rid of their consultants, the state was lifted up as a stellar example on whole house to the new HUD. There was a presentation that included the state of Maryland, and so Nicola, congratulations on that good work as it gets lifted up there. Any other legislative updates from MDE? Anything we should know legislatively?
1367. So it's a bill to propose additional penalties for people in the industry who falsify documentation that leads to invalid certificates and hazards and things like that. So I think it's directly related to the green environmental case.
Yep. And has that had a hearing? Do you know?
I'm not sure where it is, but
Okay, Wes, could you look on there or see on HB 1367? I don't know if anybody else from MDE is able to talk about that.
Yes. So,
Okay, so while the good segue, Fred, if you could, and Commissioner Hutchinson, if you have a specific question you'd like to pose, but I'm asking Dr. Banks just to give us an update on enforcement actions in general, but certainly around green environmental has been of interest to the commission. And I think the direct question from the commissioner is, do we know the impact of numbers of families by jurisdiction, et cetera?
okay. I'll defer to Chris for where we are with the case. I could talk about what we did internally with the team, but he'll talk about the legal side of it.
So Chris, are you prepared to maybe say a few words?
Yeah, sure.
Good morning, and I hope you're well.
Yeah, good. Good morning. All right, so been asked to speak a little bit about the department's case, Green Environmental, and Rodney Barkley. So Green Environmental was an accredited inspection contractor in the state of Maryland. Its sole employee and owner was Rodney Barkley. he was an accredited risk assessor. And the department did an investigation mostly in 2024 into lead-free inspection certificates that Mr. Barkley was issuing. Initial investigation revealed that he was actually operating his business with an unlicensed XRF machine, and most likely the XRF machine wasn't even functional at the time based on its age and the lack of ability to resource it. So the department started looking at his notification forms for inspections he was performing, and then looked at as many certificates as they could. So they started off with a review of 1,100 lead-free certificates. That pretty much led them to believe that he wasn't operating in compliance with the law. They issued an emergency suspension of revocation of both the accreditation of Green Environmental and Mr. Barkley. What that allows the department to do is, upon receipt of that document, they can immediately terminate that inspector's access to the database, LRCA, which essentially shuts down their ability to do any further inspections in the state of Maryland. So that was delivered to Mr. Barkley and Green Environmental, and neither one of them requested a hearing. So after 30 days, that was final. So I don't have the exact date on that, but as of that date, they were no longer able to do any work in the state of Maryland. The department then followed through with an injunction filed in the circuit court for Baltimore City. That was filed on November 24th of last year. It alleges, it has a number of allegations in it regarding project notification forms that weren't sent into the department. I believe there's, of the 1,100 certificates that were reviewed, 808 had no prior notification to the department. And that's essentially, that's the mechanism by which the department can perform oversight on somebody's inspection. So, when we don't get project notification forms, we assume, they're doing it in order to avoid any sort of oversight. So almost across the board, no project notification forms. At the time the complaint was filed, the department had performed 90 oversight inspections of certificates issued by Mr. Barkley, indicating properties were one time only lead-free, which means there was supposed to be no lead paint on the interior or the exterior of the properties. Every single one of those 90 properties failed the inspection, meaning that there was lead-based paint in the properties. There were also 2 full risk reduction certificates that were invalidated at the time. Since then, the department has conducted an additional 43 inspections, so they're up to 133 inspections, and at the same point, none of the inspections have passed, so which means all of those properties have lead-based paint in them. In addition, so the complaint alleges a number of violations of the regulations and the law regarding the inspections that he performed, in addition to the radiological violations for not registering an XRF machine that has a radioactive isotope in it. So the department the radiation program actually went out to his property and impounded that device. So there were also alleged violations concerning the machine as well. So more recently, the department has responded to a poisoned child in one of the properties that Mr. Barkley confirmed to be lead-free. They found lead-based paint hazards in the property. They've invalidated that certificate. In terms of tenant notifications, they have issued advisory, at this point, they're advisory letters issued regarding 1,500 lead-free certificates, and this is to advise the owner and the tenant. So there's 1,500 certificates, but they sent a copy of the letter to the owner of the property and to the tenant of the property, advising them that their inspection may not be valid, and that if it's an occupied rental property, they're advising the owner they should probably have a new inspection performed, and they're advising the tenants that they may be living in properties that are not in fact lead-free according to a certificate they may have received when they moved in.
We should be working together.
So that's the current status of the filing. I think the department's continuing to do some oversight. They have been receiving, obviously, they sent out I think it's approximately 3,000 letters regarding 1,500 certificates. So the certificates may be issued for multiple units. But they are receiving, those went out 2 weeks ago. The department is receiving phone calls from both property owners and tenants. So they're advising both on how to proceed. The current status of the case is that Green Environmental, they're a company in the state of Maryland. They had an attorney as their resident agent, so service was pretty straightforward against the company. The company was served, failed to file an answer, so the department has filed a request for a default against Green Environmental. Mr. Barkley has not been served at this point. The department's filed a motion for alternative service in order to get Mr. Barkley served, and they're also working with the sheriff's office to see if they can serve him as well. So still working on service for Mr. Barkley, and that's where the case stands. If there's any other questions that I could answer, or
Yeah, there's a question
No idea what I just
from
said.
Dawn Joy.
okay.
She says, does MDE do a courtesy report of the findings for Green Environmental to surrounding states, i.e. DOEE?
That would be something Fred could probably answer.
Okay.
So
Nadia,
good. I'm sorry. Around January, we met with Region 3 and we notified all the surrounding states that we had this case pending and that they should be on the lookout for Green Environmental trying to get credited in their areas. DC reached out to us and said that he did try to get certified or accredited in their state and had succeeded to. So we're working with them. We spoke to them yesterday, but we stay in contact with them weekly to just get updates and try to help. They're actually trying to help us get him served. So they were, as they get notifications in, they're letting us know to see if we can get the process server to meet him at the property and get him served. So, but yeah, they're all aware of who he is and what he did.
So I know, Nadia, you have your hand up and then I'll go after you, but go ahead, please.
Thank you so much for the additional information on this. Just wanted to offer up that Young Gifted and Green is doing a lot of door knocking in Baltimore City. So if there is any way that we can be of support to MDE in terms of tenant notification, we would be happy to do so. We've also been working with tenant advocacy groups such as Baltimore Renters United, who has a very large base of renters throughout the city. So if there's anything we could do through either channel, I'm happy to be of support. This is a really important issue to us. And I know that a lot of tenants raise concerns around their lead certification. And so want to make sure that tenants also feel in deeper levels of trust with the certification process. I think one kind of follow-up question that I have, which is maybe an aside, but if someone could drop in the chat the bill number for the House bill around
It's 1367.
Thank you.
So I have a number of questions here. Obviously, on the tenant counseling work, we'd like to make sure we coordinate on those homes. The 1,500 homes, has MDE already done the research of which is rental and which is homeowner? So
we're in a process of going through the 1,500 now.
Okay.
I would say we're probably about a third through. We got all hands on deck. So we had internal auditors helping us. MDH is helping us. So everybody's kind of chipping in. So We anticipate in the next 2.5 weeks, we should be able to get through the entire list.
Well, let me just kind of build a little bit on Commissioner Hutchinson's piece here, right? So we have this tenant counseling now in place, that we could do some coordinated work with other groups to help you reach those families proactively. We also want to reach the homeowners.
Right.
And making sure the homeowners who may have young children or young children visiting, they also know. So I'd love to make sure that we could coordinate a meeting. Number one, on the outreach, the proactive education, right? You all have the legal stuff and we can talk about, that, but that's an army of houses that need to be immediately, first of all, big praise. That's a huge undertaking, huge effort that you're doing here. I estimate just by my own back of the envelope, this guy collected somewhere between $625,000 and $1 million in fees, probably on these certificates.
Yeah.
But Chris or Fred or anyone, what is the automatic notification to other agencies? So if I'm DHCD, if I'm Department of Labor and MHIC, are they getting notification of your action so they can tag anything related to this person as a potential vendor for them?
We hadn't notified DHCD or the internal. Baltimore City Health Department's aware of it because we work with them so close.
Yeah, I would say every health, I would say Dr. Mitchell should be, we can help, but every county, right?
Dr. Mitchell's team has a list of all the addresses. His team actually went through to see if there are any poison children. They have a different way of looking at it than we do. So yeah, so we're working closely with them.
Well, I'm just saying on outreach though, if Mr. Barkley is trying to get certified in DC, he's probably much more than Baltimore City here. And making sure that we've got a lot of cross reference on that. I assume we're getting the referral on the poison kid or whatever we can do, but don't forget in Baltimore City for these families, we do have housing choice vouchers to help move them if need be. We would want to try to direct, maybe coordinate, and Nicole's on the line, I believe, if there are efforts where people were left thinking they were safe and they're not. Nicole, I think this might be a place that we should be looking potentially to help where we can on lead dollars. But I think it's really important. Nicole is on the phone, but making sure that there's normally a communication happening so agencies can immediately check or pause any work that may be done. Chris, what is the effort to do criminal prosecution here? Because this seems to me that, does it not lift to a criminal prosecution?
Yeah, so our side of the AG's office doesn't handle criminal prosecutions. I would ask Fred, did the department make a referral to ECU?
ECU, I believe.
Department of Natural Resources.
Yeah, I have to check on that one. I believe we did, specifically with the misuse of the XRF, because I think that is a criminal violation, but I'll have to check to see if our air department did that or.
Let me say, if we need to take a look at the law, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a criminal enterprise going on here. And it's criminality to set people up to believe they're going to be safe. And I know there may be civil action that the family can take potentially if they could ever find the individual. Finding the individual is an important thing here. Do we believe he's domiciled in Maryland or we have no idea?
Yeah, he lives in Maryland.
Yeah, he lives in Maryland.
Yeah.
But we haven't been able to serve him?
No. Nope.
And, okay, well, we can talk about whatever efforts there, but is there anything, Chris, that you know of that's currently in the law that would look at the magnitude of this and have it meet a threshold of criminality?
Yeah, so our office can't make any determinations on criminal liability.
Yeah.
We don't do criminal liability.
I understand, but do you know of any statute that we should be looking at here and maybe you can't say, but we'll have to get it investigated.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and so the way that it works is the department makes a referral to the criminal division. And literally we can't speak to them about the case. There's a wall in between the department, legally. So I assume that the department made a referral to the environmental crimes unit. But we only handle civil matters and only can address civil
I
matters.
got it, but I'm mostly looking, and I see Nakia, and good question by Barbara coming up here, but I'm interested in whether we have to fix the law on this, right? We've put a lot of appropriate onus on the owner.
Right.
But if you're the owner here and you got duped, right? We've got to put real onus here on the inspection side, for sure. So I think I'd like to pull some commissioners to look at, are there amendations to the law? Nakia, has your hand up, and then Barbara, I'll call on you for your comment.
Michael Ikniewski also has a question. So we got Michael, Barbara, and Nakia.
I think, was Nakia first, though?
I think it was Michael that was first.
Michael, okay. Michael?
Yeah, I just had a question about, I mean, I know the total number is pretty staggering, but do you know what percentage of total inspections that represents over that time frame?
I'm not sure. You mean the number of inspections that MDE did on the properties, or the number of inspections that the individual did?
Well, the number of inspections, the total number of inspections done on properties over this time frame, and what percentage of that total was done by Mr. Barkley?
So he did in upwards of about 1,700 inspections. He's a one-man shop, so he did all of them.
But what looks like he was doing is just handing out 1,600
Right.
certificates.
So they weren't
which
really
isn't a
inspections
huge
yet.
effort, right?
But he recorded almost close to 2,000 inspections in a course of, I guess, about a little under a year.
And how many inspections were done by other people or other agencies over this time?
That's a great question. Some of them are a lot larger than that, Doc. Some companies do thousands of inspections a week. Some of them do maybe one or two a month. So it's a wide range.
But the other companies have employees,
Right.
right? They have a large number of employees.
He's not the only one person shop though. There's quite a few that.
And are we doing any random inspections of these other shops?
Yeah.
Like this, I mean, to me, a trigger would be somebody's one person shop and has this multitude of inspections, which is hard to map.
So just to note, nobody informed us about Barkley. This was the result of our inspectors looking at the numbers, evaluating the time frame in which he was completing these inspections. So this is kind of a team effort that our inspectors really put a lot of work in to pull this guy as an outlier for what he was doing. And there's quite a few more that we have to go through, but he's the most recent one. But there's a few more coming down the pike that we got our eyes on. So these are the results of our inspectors looking at some parameters and saying this doesn't fit right. So yeah.
Hey, Fred, can I ask a little bit of a nuancy question, which is...
Hey, Adam, I just want to be respectful here. I'm going to put you in the queue.
No, I
please.
just stated, but it's about this specific topic. And this might be, remember, he was falsifying lead freeze as opposed to dust testing, which might be, I would imagine there are a lot less lead-free inspections than there are the dust tests. That's all.
Yeah. That's true.
And he was handing out lead-free certificates.
Yeah, handing them out. Yes.
Yeah, literally like the lemonade stand.
Yeah.
So as a follow,
go ahead, doctor.
just a brief follow-up question. Do you know if the word was out, hey, if you want to get a easy past inspection, call this guy?
So that's kind of where the next step of that investigation going. It kind of relates to that House Bill 1367, because that bill holds the property owner responsible if they knowingly indulged in the falsification of the documentation. So it's kind of difficult to prove, but that'll be sort of our next steps once we get through this case. But yes, that's a tough. not the,
look at these things, or the criminal process.
Yes, part of a criminal prosecution.
But, I think we've got to, I mean, the interview with these owners too will be quite important in that. Wes, can I ask you if you can pull it up, if there's a hearing slated for 1367, super important. Wendy, I
Yeah.
think I'm correct, Nakia Randall.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, the hearing was held actually on March 4th in the House. So must have been scheduled quickly, but it was heard on March 4th.
At E&T?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Nakia?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I just wanted to ask if we could just make sure that LHRP has a copy of the addresses and owners so that we can get on top of this as well. We do have a new grant that we just got funding for, and and of course we want to be proactive with any kids that may be in the home or anything along those lines in terms of helping out with this project.
100%. Nakia, just for the audience here, can you just remind them what agency you're with, please?
Sure. Lead has a reduction program under DHCD. I'm a program manager.
At the state?
No, city, Baltimore City.
Right. Okay. That's what it is. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
State
you.
just got lead money too. I don't know where that stands, but it's such a good process. Thank you. Who's next? I think Barbara.
Barbara Moore. I can.
Thank you. This is great to know that there's been some investigation. We've had issues over the past year, as you know, with families having the one-time certificate from recent to several years back, and now their child does have lead poisoning. So there may be other groups also that we're concerned about, but it says it was dust tested. We can't tell if it was XRF, and nobody can get those reports, which is always concerning to us. The other thing is, you were saying that they're being.
Barbara, can we pause there for a minute?
Sure.
So Fred, on this issue, right? Somebody has a one-time certificate. Owners think they do it once, they never do it again. They're like, right, thinking nobody's paying attention. But there is a way for the family to contact you all to know more about that certificate, right? And to know, can we bring, or have Wendy share like the process for that? And Barbara, you can call us for sure, because we're in contact with MDE, checking lots of things about property. So if you have that question, we will check it and find out the background.
Okay, we have with the voucher program, and we still have not been able to get actual inspection reports to be able to verify if a XRF was also done or if it's just dust, because on the certificate it just says dust. And we know that after a couple years of that type of inspection, we don't know what's underneath. All right, the family goes in, they do a good cleaning, and 2 years from now, there is lead dust in that house, and it's not re-inspected because they had the one-time certificate. But besides all of that, I'm concerned if tenants are being advised to get a re-inspection done, right? It might be in their best interest. Who's going to pay for that, especially if a child is over the age of 6?
so the property owner should pay to get the property re-inspected. Some property owners have gone after the inspectors that issued the certificate to either try to get a reimbursement for the invalid certificate, but that's kind of that's what they're kind of limited to.
Well,
some of the
hang on.
certificates
It's a cost of doing business, right?
Yeah.
They did business with somebody who committed fraud.
Right.
That does not negate their requirement to get a valid.
Right.
So I urge the department or no one to tolerate that we're going to let an owner off the hook to say, oh, until they can collect from Rodney Barkley, who I want to call Sean Barkley or whatever, the running back. The reality is this,
Once we've identified that's an invalid certificate, unfortunately, that owner's on the clock to get that property re-inspected.
well, that's why I think it's really important, transparency here, community advocacy, being able to have community organizations that can help follow up to say and to know and to be communicating our own tenant counseling, right?
Yeah.
Program to be able to be talking with the residents, because what happens often here is the owner is not telling the resident about this situation. Now, in Baltimore City in 1996, we changed this. Any notice that the city sends to the owner about lead, they must send to the occupant as well.
Right.
If this is not the procedure, not the law, not the process at MDE, it needs to be. If there's a known tenant there, that tenant, do not rely, no offense to the responsible property owners that may be on this call, but we cannot rely on the fact that that owner is going to tell their tenants that they had a fraudulent inspection and they may be living in dangerous properties. I think it is incumbent upon the state, or we will help you, others have said that too, that we immediately notify the occupants, not just the owner.
Right, that's our policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're doing 2 notifications.
Yeah.
Addressed to and delivered to those folks.
The resident and the property owner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barbara, some of those certificates, lead-free certificates, are really old. And so it's some of the information that you may be requesting might be difficult to get our hands on. There is a public search for tenants or property owners to look up certificates. So we kind of guide people there to prior to, during, when they're at a residence, to see the status of a lead-free or certificate for their home. So there's access on LRCA to do that. But they should be able to put their property in there. Kevin just put the link in for the public search for a certificate. So, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Who's up next? Wendy?
Susan Kleinhammer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. I just was wondering, I didn't know if Chris had mentioned something about, the one way that they can find all that's going on and how they did it with Green Environmental was that they weren't doing the 24-hour notice. But if you don't do a 24-hour notice, you cannot generate a certificate. So I just thought maybe sharing, like with Fred, if they have a way of seeing that people inspectors are not regularly doing their 24-hour notice, they're probably the ones that aren't doing things right.
Right.
So I mean, they've already done 1,500 certificates without 24-hour notice. That would have set up an alarm bell to me.
Yeah. So, and like I said, Susan, those are kind of the parameters that we use to identify. Unfortunately, Rodney Barkley is not the only one doing this. So we're out beating the pavement every day trying to locate these guys. They're busy, so, and as you know, they and this goes back to some of our bad property owners. Once they identify, and maybe they think they're getting a deal. Hey, Susan charges me $1,000. Rodney only charges me $350. I'm going with Rodney.
What was he charging? $350?
Around that time, it was significantly lower, I think.
All the time. You're right, Fred. The other thing is, to be honest with you, I mean, even Lead Tech Services has done a lot of training of computer skills to older inspectors who don't know how to do it. Yeah. They don't know how to do the LRCA system, which we're not trying to be fraudulent, but they are not putting in correct information. And unfortunately, I think the LRCA system, and part of the goal was to get better accuracy, and to some extent, I think it's the opposite that's happening.
Gotcha.
Just to piggyback on what Susan, and because I think you made a very important point, that is what you're asking is there a way to trigger LRCA that if you don't do a 24-hour notification, that you cannot issue a certificate?
Before
I mean, that's
I know,
that's an interesting.
No, yeah,
that's an interesting
let's not go crazy here because look, we are private
Well,
companies.
you went there.
I know, but I went there. That you're right, but it cannot be an absolute. Because look, if I had a cancellation for tomorrow and I didn't have any work and somebody called me up and said, I need an inspection for tomorrow, 99% of the time I do my 24-hour notice, but there's going to be a couple of times I may not give 24-hour notice because I don't have 24-hour notice. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to service that client.
Yeah,
I think we should just look at and understand 24-hour notice more. It may
Well, a 24-hour notice is 24-hour
No, I
notice.
noticed,
Yeah.
and
So we can do oversight.
yeah, so that does give while it may be a pain for some, right? We have to build in mechanisms
Yeah.
that will allow for better oversight because Fred, what you said, right? My heart goes up in my throat here when you say he's not the only one.
No.
So can I ask the naive question here? Are you readying other actions for others?
Definitely.
Okay.
So
So this is coming more.
So guys, let me just real quick,
I want to get to
our staff does get notified when people don't make 24-hour notifications, but it doesn't prevent the inspector from going through because of Susan, some of the nuances of, I got sick today, can I reschedule? Somebody else's. So if you have more than a one-person team and you're headed to a property, you get in an accident, and John's headed to a property, now Jay's going instead of you, that's a violation. But we work with the inspectors to make sure that we're not coming down on them for every single thing. But essentially, that is a violation when the person that put in the notification is not the person that's doing the inspection. So there's a lot of things in place that we can amp up the constraints around some of these people. But to be honest with you, the majority of inspectors are doing what they're supposed to do. But there are some very few ones that are doing a lot of bad things, and we're on them. It's just it's a lot to do, and so we're doing the best we can.
Nadia's hands up.
Yep. And then, yep.
Yeah, just going back on the House bill, I was wondering, and I'm sorry if I'm messing up the process of how we do things, but wondering if this would be an opportunity for the commission to write in support of this House bill around the lead inspections and certifications.
Yeah,
And
we were getting to it, so absolutely, you can make that motion in just a minute.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep. Okay. Other discussion here. First, Chris. Susan.
I just want to say too that, first of all, Fred, thank you for the comment that most of us are doing what we're supposed to be doing. Second of all, the whole industry of where you can become a lead paint inspector in 3 days and go out and do an inspection. I'm not quite sure, I know that that's how it goes, but I always told people when we were teaching, I wouldn't want to be your first client. There's no practicum in the field. You don't learn everything you need in a classroom setting about how to be a good inspector. So I do think that some of the problem is the lack of good experience and good education in order to be able to conduct these kinds of inspections.
Well, maybe as we consider the mechanisms to support the enforcement, it could be, not saying this to be provocative, right, the 24-hour notice, but it could also be a provisional license for 3 to 6 months. And if it's under a provisional license, you would know MDE should be out there inspecting what they're doing in order to get a permanent license, sure, but something to consider here, and this is an important discussion. And I know we've got a number of things that we've got people thinking about here. One, I'm going to probably ask for volunteers that you can send an email to Wendy if you want to do a follow-up meeting on this to discuss strategy and support, both in the education side of this, and others looking at ways that we can support a stronger set of enforcement mechanisms to support the department's work, which is hearing the number of like inspections you've had to do and oversight and everything else. Somebody's been working their backside off here, 2 or 3 people, so thank you. We're going to get to 1367 here, 1 second. Dr. Mitchell, and this will be the last question.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Sorry I had to join late. So 2 things. First is we are very closely working with the Department of the Environment, and as Fred said, we are reviewing all of our kids who are enrolled statewide in our home visiting program to make sure that if they are on that list, we are in contact with them. Second thing is I do want to sort of just, there is a difference, it seems to me, between the issue of are you doing a good examination because you're new and inexperienced. I'm not sure that I think that people who are new and experienced are the most likely to engage in criminal behavior. And I think there's a difference between the quality of the inspection and whether or not you do oversight for new inspectors because you think that they're new, and what Fred has been doing and MDE has been doing, which I think is terrific, which is oversight on experienced inspectors who look anomalous for any reason. But I think, we do this with everybody, which is quality assurance on the entire industry to make sure that that the quality of the inspections is correct. So I don't want to.
Yeah, Cliff, I appreciate the comment. I think the new is just to make sure newly licensed are doing what they're supposed to do. I think many states do use a provisional and then permanent licensure process. I know we're talking about this on the Detroit led task force to do that. I do agree on the experience as well. And that, to me, there is an analytics or an algorithm of effectively talking about tech here, that when you see like sole proprietors producing numbers that are just not mappable to reasonable work, I mean, right?
Yeah,
process.
like headline freeze in one day.
Yeah, I think there's some good analytics that can be put in here, some other things. So we're gonna pull something together. You are absolutely the last comment before we get, because we're gonna blow the rest of our agenda, and this is critically important and we know it.
So real quick, we are doing some things. First, we're making a test twice as difficult. We're working with our inspectors that are 60 days or less newly accredited, providing what we could like to call compliance assistance. We're rolling out more trainings for inspectors. So we get a lot of calls from inspectors saying, hey, thanks for coming out and showing me what to do. And that's the goal, is to make sure that on one end, we're trying to help assist create better inspectors. And on the other end, we're doing enforcement of our inspectors that are knowingly doing the wrong thing. So, but we have the lowest fees to become an inspector in Region 3. So we're going to try to increase our fees to make it a little more difficult to become an inspector. So we're looking at this.
Is that covered in 1367 too?
No, this is a COMAR change.
So that's a COMAR change that could happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but we want to raise the fees. We're going to make the test a little more challenging, and we're going to do a lot more visitation with our new inspectors, both at the training sites and in the fields.
You're going to love them to a better place.
That's right.
Is there a role
Yes.
for EPA here?
Yes. I don't know how. So we were supposed to have a workshop this summer that's been canceled. But we think spoke to our division chief. We think we're still going to do it. We'll just do it without EPA. So we're going to invite Region 3 in, and I spoke to Lori yesterday about being a part of that as well. So we're going to still move.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we want to be on the ground doing this work and bringing others in. We'll get to it in a minute, whatever path the EPA is taking. Apparently lead has been retained as a priority in the new administration there, but we talked about that in a second. I think there is a motion on the floor, if I've interpreted correctly, that the commission support the passage of House Bill 1367, which would, do you want to describe that again, just briefly?
Yeah, these are civil charges for both the person in the industry, the professional industry, and the property owner for knowingly falsifying documentation that led to invalid certificate or violation.
That is not currently in the law.
And 1-302, I believe it's in there somewhere, but it's for, I think that one may be for criminal. This one.
Fred, I have a quick question for you when you get a chance on that.
Okay, well, Adam, we're going to get the motion first, then we'll take comment on the motion. So Commissioner Hutchinson, do you want to just make the motion again? We'll get a second, then we'll have discussion.
Yeah, motion to vote in support of the HB 1367.
Second.
Okay.
Point of information.
Yes.
So I just, because I've done this before, is the motion to support the specific bill, or is it to support a specific provision, which may or may not be in that bill or another bill? That is to say,
yeah. Current motion is to support, like we did on the fees bill, which is now part of the budget process, for the commission to write a letter in support of House Bill 1367. We have a motion, we have a second. We're opening it up for comment on that. And Dr. Mitchell, we can come back further to that. Let me, we also have a third, so we've got a second and third. Adam is first, Susan, then Dr. Mitchell, if you want to come back on the bill, and then we can come back on further discussion about provisions.
Yeah, in using the green environmental as a hypothetical case. So Barkley, I get it. He should be fined civilly. If the property owner doesn't have any clue that Mr. Barkley is falsifying these tests, is the way the bill drafted, is the property owner liable for the civil penalty also, as they relied on a licensed inspector?
No.
Okay. That's all I had.
Yeah, it has to be a knowing, a provable knowing, right? What I hear. Susan?
Actually, that was my question also, because it happens, you know, unfortunately, most people don't check out their inspector. I mean, they see that they're on the list, they're accredited, and unknowingly, they're then subject to having to do a reinspection, which can actually make it also worse, because normally we're doing inspections at time of turnover. Now they're going to invalidate a certificate while it's occupied, and they've got to do it like within 30 days. And now the onus is on the owner, and you're now causing potentially a greater hazard to do work in a property that's occupied. So I agree with Adam. I just wanted to kind of look at if you're not knowingly.
Yeah, being one of the older people in this work here, throw Paula in there with me. Back in.
Well, you can put me in there, I think, because I think I preceded you.
I'm not sure about that, but back in the about 1998 to 2000, MDE did a really great job of enforcing on a owner and inspector scheme that was going around Baltimore, where the property owners were ginning up an inspector who was in their circle and just handing out on the porch of houses inspection certificates. Anita Hampson and used to work at our organization, worked with MDE on that. So this is not new, right? And behaviors of human beings are not new, but we need to find stronger ways to do this. I believe Ms. Hutchinson is next.
Yeah, I just have a quick question about this property owner piece. In talking with the Renters United group in Baltimore, There were a lot of concerns about property owners potentially specifically targeting inspectors that would give certifications. They also have had like Baltimore City rental court cases where they have testified and determined that a property owner was like falsely certifying things. I'm interested in knowing how we get to this, or what type of investigation, like would MDE be doing an investigation to determine that the property owner was like a part of the scheme of false certification? How would,
yeah, if Renters United has evidence of that, right, that should be a referral immediately to MDE, as well as any actions they're trying to take in rent court on their own, right?
Okay, understood.
The actions in rent court will be so much weaker without also the referral to, if it's in the city, Jason Hessler should know about it at the city. The state should know about it at MDE. And if it's, if that owner has taken grants from DHCD, we want to make sure DHCD is notified. If they've taken grants from Nicole Hart's group, we want to make sure that is there as well. And so there's a process. I'm happy to come, and we're happy to come and talk to Renters United about this process, but saying it and evidencing it so there can be enforcement action are two things, right? And we've got to get the evidence in order to strengthen any of the laws, the bills, the fines, the penalties, and also make sure the enforcement actions are followed through. So I would love the opportunity for us to talk more about that, make that happen. I would say, Barbara Moore, when you hear anything close to this, let's get this referred back over on we're going to get a kind of a SWAT committee together on this. There are SWAT teams for, high lead, but we need to have a SWAT team, a SWAT process for this as well. Susan, you're the last comment before we're taking vote.
Thank you, Ruth Ann. The only thing I want to point out too is, and it's not for the lead freeze, but it is for the full risk reductions, is that, over time, the first thing that has to happen is if you're not lead free, you have to do a visual inspection. And that visual review is very subjective. And what I have noticed over time is that it has changed as to what is acceptable for paint that's in good condition by the Maryland Department of the Environment. I mean, legally it says in the law, the statute, chipping, peeling, flaking. And now, and it has come to the point that that subjectiveness is not just including those adjectives, which, any good trainer is going to say any paint that's deteriorated, not just chipping, peeling, and flaking, but the amount, to be honest with you, if any inspector said 100%, I mean, that's hard to attain even in an owner-occupied house, is that to the degree of where that subjectiveness by MDE and the inspector may be worlds apart.
Susan, I need to stop you. Is this relative to this bill?
Well, it is, good point. Maybe not.
Okay, so we need to table that conversation to if you would like to bring that up as a discussion in the next commission meeting.
Yep, perfect.
Please contact Wendy, but we're closing discussion, and what is on the table is for the State Lead Commission to issue a letter of support and potentially to testify in support of this bill, to weigh in with the committee since it's had a hearing. Is there a cross file or is it only House bill?
It's just 1367.
Who's the sponsor? Is it administration or is it we'll figure that out.
Sandy Rosenberg.
Yeah.
Okay, great, fantastic. All in favor, say, please put your hand up in the chat. Fred and I are voting in favor. Or Fred, do you have to abstain?
I do have to abstain.
Okay, so I'm voting in favor. Wendy? We have Susan, Nadia, Barbara. Let's keep scrolling down. We have 5.
Allie, Michael, Christina,
Okay.
Nicole.
And, okay, so Nicole, great. I think,
All right. So I'll
Barbara.
lower.
Okay.
I'll
So
lower
you have,
everything.
you have, by my count, you have 10 or 11 there. Is that right? Okay, all opposed. Hearing none in opposition, the commission will support the work to support the passage of House Bill 1360.
Can we get abstentions on the record, please?
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Adam, abstentions, please.
Adam,
I was
Angela, Nicole,
This is-
Nicola.
Yeah.
Right. This is Cliff. I have to abstain so I don't cause an accident.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Cliff, and then Jacob abstains.
Okay, great. All right, so we still, the bills, or the motion still passes. Thank you for those who have to abstain and those abstaining by conscience. And we will issue that letter. It will go out by noon tomorrow. We'll provide a copy to everyone. I'm going to pause for a minute before we go on to the next business. I know Nicole has been waiting a long time, but I walked in today and saw this nifty little award here, and I snatched it away from Fred, who was so proud of it, so that I could lift up the Maryland Department of the Environment Lead Poisoning Prevention Program, who today we've seen the kind of work that they are doing and trying to do here with support and input from the University of Baltimore Schaefer Center for Public Policy, which is really an excellent school and an excellent asset in Maryland. And that says, in appreciation for mentoring student interns and serving as a next-gen leaders for public service. So congratulations to Fred, Paula, the entire lead program. Cheers. Okay. Take a bow. Got that? All right, good. Wes, are you on the line to just, I know, I don't believe Grace was allowed potentially to join us. That's why she may be on leave, who I don't know. EPA has a number of things going. But Wes, can you pull up, or Wendy pull up from what he put it in the chat, the release of the 6 indicators of environmental health that the current
Okay,
EPA is.
and I can read those real quick while she's doing that.
Okay.
So there are 5 pillars that were released on February 4th by
Sorry, I thought
administration.
it was, is it 6 or 5 or 6?
5
Okay.
pillars on February 4th. Pillar 1 is clean air, land, and water for every American. Pillar 2 is restore American energy dominance. Pillar 3, permitting reform, cooperative federalism, and cross-agency partnership. Pillar 4 is make the United States the AI capital of the world. And Pillar 5 is protecting and bringing back American auto jobs. Those are the 5 EPA pillars of priority focus for them.
So I guess they had asked to speak on it, I think, around Pillar 1. My understanding is from the Children's Health Protection Advisory Council, which I'll learn more about tomorrow because we're having an administrative meeting of the GPAC, that lead would fit under Pillar 1. That remains a priority. We'll know more about it, but we wanted to make sure people saw this. This is how the EPA is stating that they're making decisions, looking at grantees, looking at actions, so much in this world. I don't know, Wes, are they on the website?
Yes, that's there. Yep.
I can't answer any of the questions around the EPA's pillars. We're not here, we're not promoting them, and but we're just sharing them so people see them and know as EPA evolves. So much work of MDE's lead program has interacted with, has been, I think, supported by, in part, at least human resource and partnership. I'm concerned that we make sure that there is still a federal asset and set of resources to support the department. And I like that somebody called you George, Wes, but your name is up there as George, so you deserve that. Right? We'll go from there. But happy to take questions tomorrow to the CHPAC and ask questions. No, don't know. I think the auto jobs is in there, Michael, because I think tailpipe emissions are certainly regulated by EPA, and it probably relates to that, is my guess. So, any other comments? I don't know that we can all comment on what's going on in DC, but have at it if you'd like. There you go. Shadia put the EPA link up. Thank you, Shadia. All right. Nicola, you are going to talk to us about your Healthy Homes Production Grant, and I don't know if you can say anything about the lead grant too, but thank you, and turn it over to you.
Yeah.
Nicola, did you want me to share the screen or do you want to do it?
I can do it.
Okay.
And so what we prepared for today is a quick overview of our all the repair programs at DHCD that can be relevant to lead and rehabilitation of older homes. And the two programs that you mentioned, Ruth Ann, the two new federal programs, obviously we haven't heard about them in a couple of weeks now. We are hopeful that they're still coming through, and we'll share a little bit of information on what we have planned for those if they do move forward. So real quick for everybody who is not aware, technically our program suite of rehabilitation programs is called the Special Loans Programs. That's the name that is defined for it in statute. It is not a very descriptive name, so we're trying to move the conversation a little bit more towards rehabilitation programs. But if you see special loans throughout this presentation, that's still the official name. So the Special Loans Programs group is part of our Whole Home Energy and Repairs Division within the Community Development Administration at DHCD, which has the goal to preserve and expand housing stock throughout the state of Maryland to keep it affordable, accessible, safe, and as part of that, lead-free. The special loans programs specifically provide grants and loans for various purposes that serve the rehabilitation or renovation or reconstruction of single-family properties, specifically those that are owner-occupied or have up to 4 units. As I mentioned, this program and this task for DHCD is defined in COMAR. And all of the special loans programs, we operate them directly with our staff here at DHCD, as well as with partner organizations across the states at local governments. The special loans portfolio consists of a number of different sub-programs with different specialties. We're just going to go over the first 4 today, as they are the most relevant to what this group is working with. So the first one is the Maryland Housing Rehabilitation Program, which pretty broadly addresses rehabilitation for single-family owner-occupied housing properties. It helps to update the properties up to building codes and remediate any health and safety issues. Income eligibility is at or below 80% of area median income. And this program is typically structured as a loan that are secured by a deed of trust. but there is some ability to defer payments for families that are at a very low income. And in those cases, we may defer the payments, and there are no actual payments required on the loan. Typical funding for this program is about 8.4 million per year. It's just an example list of the types of remediation that this program offers. So it includes everything from mold remediation, gas leaks, roof repairs, asbestos abatement, lead abatement. It can also be done through this program, and includes furnace repairs, replacement if there's combustion problems, foundation issues, structural issues, and so forth. It's a pretty comprehensive and long list. The second program is the Special Targeted Applicant Rehabilitation Program, which addresses similar issues as the Maryland Rehabilitation Program. However, it specifically looks to help those low-income customers with poor credit ratings that may not qualify for our state-based Maryland Home Rehabilitation Program. This program is federally funded through the Home Investment Partnership Program, and it also has the income limits at 80% of the respective median income. It also is for broad rehabilitation. It also has some special considerations and allowances for families with a lower income, under 60% of the area median income, or poor credit rating. And we are operating this program only in those jurisdictions that don't receive their own home funding from the federal government. Funding is typically about $1 million a year. So then we get to our specific lead hazard reduction grant and loan program. This program is available to homeowners to reduce the risk of lead poisoning by eliminating lead-based paint hazards. This is for single-family homes, which we classify as up between 1 and 4 unit properties. It's primarily for owner-occupied properties, and the real qualification is if the unit has identified that the lead hazard exists, and we provide the testing for that as well. It must be structurally sound upon completion of the lead work, and it must be in a targeted census tract to qualify for a grant. We can also do some rental properties under this program, and it's determined based on the applicant's ability to repay, whether those funds are issued as a grant or loan. So again, there's some flexibility there. And lastly, the specific existing program that we're operating in collaboration with the Department of Health is the Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids program, which specifically assists families with small children that are exposed to lead, and we would remove the lead hazards for them at no cost. This is only for the homes of those families. It can't service rentals or daycare centers. It typically has about 2.1 million per year, and in order to qualify, the child or the children of that family need to be 18 years or younger. They need to have a recent blood test with elevated lead levels. They must be enrolled or eligible for Medicaid or CHIP, and spend 10 or more hours per week in the place where the lead exposure happens. So this could also apply to properties, for example, where a child spends a significant amount of time with grandparents. It could apply to those properties as well. And that's it for our existing programs that are relevant here. We have all the information on how to apply for the programs on our website. It's through one central application. And it also lists what accompanying documentation is required for the application.
Nicole, do you have an estimate of how many families you project to serve per year in the state, or and are you mapping this to kind of coordinate with, say, Baltimore? So is most of your money non-Baltimore, for example? You may have said this, but
right. Yeah, the majority of our funding goes to the areas that are not served through local programs. You know, where we're trying to really fill in the gaps and so that everybody has access to the programs. Jack, are you able to provide an estimate of typical numbers of households?
So I do not have that readily available, but just to piggyback off of Nicola, there are still times where we have provided support, not a match, but sort of a match, obviously, with the existing Baltimore City led programs in the past. With the new grant that we're in negotiations with, we are concentrating on the areas outside of Baltimore, because Baltimore was also received that as well. But as there are times when Baltimore City has come to us asking for assistance outside of that, and we have provided it. But for the most part, we are filling in the gaps. And then just a point of clarification, it's on me on the presentation, the Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids slide. It is not 5 micrograms per deciliter. It is 3.5. So that has been updated with the SPA. I accidentally was an oversight on that piece of it. So I just wanted for clarity that it is aligned with everything else.
okay. I'm gonna come back to a larger request, which we'll work with you on, but I want to map all these programs together and have a dashboard of what families that we think collectively we can serve. I think it's really important this commission be a collector or warehouse of that information, because I'd like us to have sort of a map of where resources are. Love the cooperation of MDH, DHCD, the City of Baltimore, Prince George's County, Howard County, Community Action, and there is also another Healthy Homes Production Grant in Montgomery County. I'd like to get all of this mapped pretty quickly so that people know where they can turn. And as we asset and gap analysis the world here, like what can get to Garrett County, what can get to the Eastern Shore. We just released 73 grants in our first tranche. We're about to release more under Thriving Communities. We have huge need for these issues in Western Maryland that I think are pretty silent sometimes. Dr. Mitchell.
So I just want to commend our colleagues at DHCD, and Jack doesn't get recognized, and Nicola doesn't get recognized. In fact, DHCD does not get recognized enough for flexibility in the application process. I mean, I think that what people don't recognize, and it is part of the sort of asset gap analysis, is why do people not make it all the way through the process? Because one question is, are we identifying all the people who are potentially eligible? The other is, are they making it through the application process all the way from the beginning to end? And I just want to commend Jack and DHCD for all they have done already to try to speed that process up, because it's not a fast process and it's not all in their control. But I do think that there may be opportunities there as we look at asset and gap. And, you know, we've talked about this for thinking about both translation services, making materials that are more consumer friendly, and tailored to appropriate vulnerable populations, but also where we can help expedite the process of the application, because that's one of the areas where I think we see a drop off.
Great. So, I mean, I think we've got to make a lot of these kind of efficiencies actionable. And as we think about the strategic plan, how we help or whatever we can do in all of this, let's do that.
We have a
Susan.
question from Barbara Moore.
Okay, Barbara.
What is the typical time frame from referral to scope of service being done and work started?
So that depends on a lot of factors. Typically, as part of the application time frame, it depends on getting complete documentation from customers. With complete application, that's only, that's less than a month. With complete documentation, but that's oftentimes, a hold up to get all the documentation that is needed. For example, contractor bids and the contractor documentation. Then the implementation part depends to a great deal based on the contractor timeline. So the customer will work with the contractor directly to schedule and to work out, their availability of when that will happen. So that is almost completely on the contractor timeline. And then the closing out that happens on our end. So we do inspections and, closing out the deal. So I think it's really a very varying process. It can be a couple of months. I don't know, Jack, if you have an estimate of the average.
Well, I mean, I think that's sort of the key comment that you said, and sort of the only difference between our state programs and the one Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids program, which Barbara, you have had, experience with. That particular program, we do have approved contractors. We went through a very long RFP process. Those projects tend to start quicker because our other programs, it is a requirement for the customer to bring the contractor and the scope of work to the table. So it's a little bit quicker with the Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids, but with what Nicola had said, we do need, a referral is different sort of in our world than it is elsewhere. Ultimately, we do need a complete application with the appropriate documentation to be able to process or to move forward. And then obviously, next step, once we have identified that a family is eligible to be entered into one of the programs, we will then conduct through a procured environmental company to be able to make sure that the house is the source of lead exposure. And then we utilize that lead report to be able to determine what needs to be done. So obviously, the more or the bigger the source of lead, the longer the project will typically take, just because there's more abatement that is needed. And then with sort of one of the programs of the Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids program, relocation is pretty paramount. But for the most part, because the projects are a little bit bigger, because they're a little bit more complex, because what is allowed to be done on them does tend to, then we're starting to work on sort of another aspect, which is particular to each individual case or unique to the case, which is getting the family relocated into a lead safe environment so the work can be completed, and sometimes that can become a challenge. So sort of in sum, I know that's sort of long-winded, but the concept is that every case is pretty unique depending upon the complexity of that case.
I think, Jack, I get that. But I would just encourage the department to put, and maybe you have said this and I missed it, but just put what your strive goal on service to customers and being able to have a strive goal, because this is, every day's damage to a kid, whether it's through lead, asthma, is traumatic to families. So I just encourage the department, as you continue to progress toward excellence, to put a strive goal on there. And if you need additional assistance from a lot of entities on the phone, I know, say GHHI and others, in collecting documents, getting something done, you need a little help on that, please reach out. We want to get these things through and want you to be efficient. and definitely appreciate I think great turnaround in getting these monies. We're fortunate the ELOCs draw portals are open at HUD, so I want you to get moving and get money to help families. Susan, last question. Susan, then Fred, last two questions here.
Yeah, thanks.
Hard to run an agenda with you guys, talking about this season.
I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, and I just want to thank Nicola and Jack, Nicola and Jack, just so great, such great partners to work with. Go ahead, Susan.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm this is probably a stupid question, but confirmation of ed training that's required of the contractors doing the work.
Yeah, there are requirements on the contractor to do the work. So as Jack mentioned, for the Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids program, we have contractors that we contracting directly with. So they have to submit all their qualifications as part of that RFP process, which includes all the required licenses and experience to do the work. And then for the other programs where the customers bring in their own contractors, they have to submit a number of documents to document that the contractor is qualified to do the work. And we can, so that includes, having the MHIC license and then the relevant trade license, having the certificate of insurance, a letter of good standing, and I think those are the main ones.
Sorry. Just one follow-up question. I mean, for those that are not lead specific, do you require the RRP training? And if so, do you allow the contractor to do the lead testing of the surfaces to be disturbed, or do you require an accredited lead inspector to do the inspection? Thank you.
Jack?
So technically they can, but we have sort of simplified the process and we have a procured contractor and we want to make sure that the results are determined by them. So we have sort of taken that off of their plate and to verify that we have one source being not only doing the initial test, but also doing the clearance.
Thank you.
Jack, are you doing this because you think it'll improve the quality?
Kind of both. I mean, multifaceted. One, having one accredited source from them to be able to do it. It also then does at times pick up additional work that needs to be completed to make sure that we're, because a majority of the stuff that we're doing is not lead free, it's lead safe. So there are times when there's a chance that the integrity of the encapsulation to keep it lead safe can be jeopardized. So we are looking at sort of all aspects to make sure that when we're in there that we're addressing it and then addressing it properly. And then from that standpoint, we have a single source of the identifying where the source is coming from. So if for any particular reason, because obviously an assessment is a snapshot in time. So if there's something that is relatively close to potentially being above our standard, but at the time of the initial test, obviously we're going to create a scope of work where the areas are above our limits and to be able to test it. So if for any particular reason after the fact that we start hearing information from any of the local health departments that although numbers are going down, they're still above, then we can identify the areas potentially where although at the initial inspection and the clearance, we were fine, that something might have happened after the fact.
Okay. And Fred,
I think we're good. I can email those guys later.
Okay, great. Thank you both. Amazing. I hope we oversubscribe your program.
Yeah, I do still have 2 more slides on the anticipated new programs.
Go. Let's go.
Okay, great, because this was just what we're doing currently. So we did get awards for 2 new federal programs. One of the federal lead hazard reduction program, which will be able to provide lead remediation services similar to our state-based lead hazard reduction programs. We will integrate that program with our existing Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids and the state lead program, to support the services and hopefully maximize the impact. Through this program, we'll offer grants. And so this is the nice thing, this will be a pure grant program. There's no underwriting or loans here for up to $35,000 for owner-occupied homes and up to $15,000 for rental units to cover lead hazard control costs. And we are expecting to receive $4 million over 4 years for this purpose. The second one is the Healthy Homes Production Grant. That's also federal, through which we plan to deliver health and safety improvements to over 120 low-income households in 8 different underserved Maryland counties. So this program is going to be very similar to our Maryland Housing Rehabilitation Program for general health and safety hazards. And we will also, so we're expecting $2 million from that grant that we will leverage with our existing state-based efforts for this purpose.
And you expect these to go live when?
So that is a big question mark at this point. It's been pretty quiet about them so far this year, so we don't have a start date yet. We're hoping that communications about these programs restart pretty soon. They started. Some of the federal agencies started to start communications on some other federal grants. And so we're hoping that this is going to go along the same lines pretty soon as well.
And I can jump in there real quick, hot off the presses, late last night, negotiation process have picked up on the lead hazard reduction grant. They are now actively moving forward with the negotiation process. I don't know if there was a delay or whatnot, or if any of the particular program monitors were a part of any reduction in force, but just let you know that happened. And then I actually just hot off the presses right before we started, received a notification for the Healthy Homes Production Grant, which I'll forward over to you, Nicola, is for the program manager orientation that is required for the grant. So just letting you know that it does look like, at least from today and late last night, that they are starting to reach back out to move these along. So that's a positive sign.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. So that's in May. There's also one in April for existing grantees. So the HUD staff will be limited in going to these, but they are running them. Great job. Other questions? Thank you, Allie.
Chris has his hand raised.
Yeah,
Chris?
Jack, I have a quick question. So what's the scope of work that these grants are can be applied to? Like, can you do a full abatement project? And if so, what is the accreditation level of the folks that are doing the work? Are they fully trained to do abatement work in Maryland, or are you guys using RFP certified workers? I guess, what's the scope and who's doing the work? It would be my question.
So the proposal that we had with them, because we were within sort of the time frame, is that we would utilize the existing approved, because we've already approved them to start out with. If we would try to go to get additional approved contractors, that would give us enough time to create that particular RFP for the particular program. But that is what we have proposed in the negotiation. Obviously, with there is a different threshold between owner occupied and the rental unit families traditionally, and with our Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids program, we are not currently entertaining rental properties. So we have to sort of look into that. But I mean, obviously, we would have to make sure that when the lead hazard reduction program is in full swing for the $15,000 on the rental units that we move away from the lead safe to the lead free.
Yeah, I guess I'm not talking about just the properties that it's applicable to. It's the scope of work on any work that you guys are doing and who's doing the work.
So, I mean, we meet all qualifications. I mean, all certifications from that piece, if that's what you're asking. So, I mean, obviously,
No, man, are you guys doing full traditional abatement, the removal of lead-based paint?
so the answer to that question is yes.
Okay, and then okay, so you're doing full abatement. Are you having fully Maryland certified abatement contractors do that work?
Yes.
Okay, and that's a list that you guys have available?
Yeah, Jack, I just encourage you to check the list. Sorry, Chris, not to interrupt, but I just want to emphasize this. Only to say that I'm concerned that DHCD has kept a rather closed list in the past of how contractors, and that I encourage that we look at the contractor certification and ensuring that there is access of contractors who are qualified to be able
Is the list of approved contractors, is that a public list?
So besides Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids, the customer has to come to, or the client is responsible for coming to us with the contractor, and we vet the contractor from that piece. How they entertain or get a scope of work, when we're verifying not only the scope of work, we're verifying the certifications, but we do not provide a public list to any potential applicants or users of our programs. But with the Healthy Homes for Healthy Kids, during the RFP process, we had to verify their certifications.
And that list, Jack, that list of contractors, I don't believe it's on our website, but we can send that to you. So because customers don't have to find that one, it's not on the website. We will just assign the contractor to them, but we can send you that list of the ones that we have contracted with directly.
And can I just say add one thing here? Families, often young families, right, who are in the rental position for any of these dollars of the rental, asking them to find a contractor is and understand how if they meet at the level of certification, right? They can, we'll help if people want to refer on that or whatever, but encourage the department to think about pre-certifying a list of contractors that would broaden the ease and efficiency and effectiveness for families, because asking families asking me to go pick a contractor that is going to meet all the muster in the world, I would find it probably hard. A lot of families might find it hard. Something we can talk about offline, but just thinking about how we are effective here. Last comment will come from Michael, and then we will have to move on in the interest of time. We are dramatically behind, but the conversation has been good. And Wendy and I and others will rethink the agenda to make sure that we have ample time for these really good discussions. And again, thank the HCD. Michael?
Yeah, just a very brief question. Are these funds guaranteed, or are they subject to being pulled back by the federal government?
So the two new programs are federal, but as Jack just mentioned, it seems like they're moving ahead at this point. The only other federal program we have is the home program, the home funded program. And that one is, question mark.
Let me
But
just say
everything else
that-
is state-based. The vast majority of our funding is state-based at the moment.
During this meeting 6 minutes ago in the New York Times, the federal judges have reinforced the fact that the Trump administration may not withhold funding appropriated by Congress on the dispersal of grants. So hopefully that will be helpful. What I have heard directly from discussions with HUD is that all awarded programs should be fine and able to run the gamut. The question is, will the current makeup of Congress, either in a new CR or new budget, extend these programs further? I think they're at serious risk for the future. When you look at the amount of money they're trying to raise, this is trying to be non-political, but just reporting on this, right? The amount of money to be raised on tax cuts and redistribution to priorities of the current administration. I think every program at HUD, EPA, Department of Energy that goes to consumer base, right, residential base, is under serious threat of existence. And that includes programs beyond this. It includes low-income heating assistance and other programs. Low-income heating assistance may survive because the gas and oil industry is in support of that. And again, not trying to be political, just what the landscape is showing us. And I appreciate the state, endeavoring on this in the tricky landscape. All right, no further questions. Thank you. The slides will be distributed, I presume, to everyone. And thank you so much. Is Jack the point of contact for questions, or who's the point of contact for questions?
You can, both of us.
Okay.
Jack and myself. And we have our contact information on the slides as well.
Fantastic. We appreciate that a great deal. And Wendy, I assume no other comments, questions from this. We'll move on.
Yeah, correct. And we have about 10 minutes before 11:30.
Yeah, so I think Nadia, Cliff, others, we have a date set to start a strategic planning day. We're going to do some pre-planning on this. We are just getting a date on the calendar. So what I will commit is that I'll get with Nadia and Cliff and others, and we will send an update to the commission around this, unless Cliff hopped off. Nadia, you want to say anything else on this? We're going to hire a facilitator for this. It will not be, the department won't have to pick up that cost. We'll get an agreement on a facilitator for this. And I think there was a lot today that would add to, and we're going to do it here at MDE.
You want to do it here?
Yeah, because you got nice light. We just need some more whiteboards, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
But Nadia, if you're on, do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I will just flag that Cliff isn't on the call anymore, but I think we will also need to reschedule since he will no longer be able to join for that meeting. But
we may or may not, because we need to keep moving. I'll talk to Dr. Mitchell about that. Okay. Keep going.
Sounds good. I also was just going to add that I don't know whether it would be during the strategy session or maybe after the strategy session. I think it would be really important to have some sort of like community insight or feedback on the strategy as well. So just wanting to offer that to the group and give thoughts.
Yeah, I'm in agreement that we ought to move a couple of places around the state to host an open forum of input. And I think we should talk about that in the planning call, right?
Have we decided on a date?
I think we have one. We'll be, Nadia, do you know the current date we have so people can join if they want on the initial planning date?
The initial planning date is going to be this upcoming Monday. So Monday, March 10th. I think it would be 11 a.m. Eastern.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to join, we're going to probably proceed, even if Dr. Mitchell can't join, to get us started. And I'll work with Wendy, make sure that everybody's invited who wants to join, so we can get a framework. If we don't keep moving, we'll keep putting this off as things start to change there. So if we could just, in the last 6 minutes here, go through the agencies who may have updates and the public as well. But a reminder at the next meeting, we're going to have a discussion around the issue of aged lead-free certificates. Susan Kleinhammer, Chris White, Fred Banks. We'll talk about the updates on the planning. We may have some federal agency updates at that point, as well as results of where we are in the legislative and budgeting process. And I think a great follow-up on many things discussed today. MDE, anything further? I don't think Rick Kessler is here. All right, so anything further?
No, from us.
Not from you. Dr. Mitchell or Theo?
Yeah, no updates for us.
Theo is partnering with GHHI on an asthma summit though next month, right? I think.
Yeah, May. Very excited for that.
There you go. And great help on that as well. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, GHHI.
Dr. Ichanowski.
Nothing new to report from AAP.
Okay. Any publications, articles come out, please always forward to the MSDE, Department of Education.
Nothing to report.
Great love to you guys. The federal education department may not exist moving forward, right? So we're going to need you more. Insurance.
Benita's not on, but I don't know if anybody else is on from there.
Right. Anything else from DHCD? Okay. Nicole Hart and team.
I believe she may have to jump off for a meeting. This is Nikia again. I do apologize. I misspoke earlier. I said that we had been awarded. We're currently in negotiations with HUD for our new grant. So,
well, you've been awarded. You just haven't gotten your contract.
Okay. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, you didn't misspeak. There's a public award. There's an announcement. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. But yeah, that's all from us.
Okay, and we're really grateful to you. We have a new director of lead at Baltimore City Health Department, Breonna Adams. I don't know if you're on.
Good morning, everyone. No updates for the Baltimore City Health Department at the moment.
Okay, and are you getting what you need from this community to get well ensconced in your job and anything that we can do?
I am learning a lot, so very informative. I am getting everything I need. If I have any questions, I'm definitely going to reach out. I appreciate the support.
All right, well, we're so glad you're there. Nadia, Young, Gifted, and Green.
Yes, we are restarting up our door-to-door canvassing strategy right now for lead service line inventory work. We had our first canvassing 2 weeks ago in District 1, and now we're going to be canvassing on March 22nd. I'm so happy to share any details with the commission, but mainly our current advocacy effort is to let folks know about the lead service line inventory, and we're doing prior notification to all homes. We also, while doing this canvassing, will do the scratch test and do the inventory process for homes. And this might be a great opportunity also to support if any of those houses also are on the list for the lead fraud situation.
Okay, good. And you'll be publicizing a number of those things, right? And for participation, and that's great. Shadia, Wes, Laura, anything from GHHI?
Yes, lots going on at GHHI. So April is Healthy Homes Month. So Laura, who is our new family advocacy or advocate lawyer, we're taking our show on the road. We're going to be going to a bunch of different school sites to talk about tenants' rights, lead laws, etc. Also, we have a presentation next week with Barbara Moore and Mount Washington Pediatrics as well to really talk about tenants' right lead laws. Laura's going to do a comprehensive presentation. We also have a webinar with Baltimore. Laura, can you help me out here? Sorry. When is our presentation? I believe it's April 9th.
April 9th with the Baltimore Regional Housing Partnership for rental property owners.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, that is what's going on here at GHHI. Busy March and April. Thank you.
We're also going to be convening an advocacy meeting around how we can support this 1,500 families plus for MDE. We'll put a call out for all groups who want to come together and do that. I've heard Young Gifted Green may be interested, but others, we've got a real job to do to make sure good education is out there about this issue. And I think the coming spring will be really important. For MDE, we are going to be at the Baltimore Convention Center this weekend. I don't know if you all are going to be there, but if there is information that you would like, or any of the agencies like shared about your grant programs, about outreach programs around lead, or anything that we can share, we have a booth at the convention center for 2 days that will be there. If you, Shadi, I'll ask Shadi to do follow up here, but we'd love to make sure we're getting your information out to the public. We get literally thousands and thousands of people come through this event. And so just so you know, if there's things that we can share there. Okay, is there any other outstanding comments from the public or from the commissioners? Yes, Susan.
Thanks, Ruth Ann. I know that I had asked Wendy to change our discussion about the old lead-free certificates. I just wanted to bring you up to date that I did meet with Chris White from ARC Environmental. We had a really good conversation about it. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Fred on board with that particular day. And between Chris and I, and Chris, if you're on, please pipe up if you want. We both decided that in order to be able to give the commission any good information, is that we would need data from MDE regarding the information about elevated blood level children, the number of elevated blood level children in old lead-free certificate holding properties. We've kind of come up with a list of things that we would like to. So I think that the best thing we can do at this point is if Chris and I and Fred, we could get together and we could discuss, first of all, these issues that Chris and I kind of agreed on.
Yes, Susan, if you can take it up offline and present it next meeting, that would be great. Thank you so much. Other comments? We are 5 minutes behind. We apologize for that, but we appreciate everyone who has stuck in there. We want to welcome all the new people to this war on lead, and we need to redeclare, I think, our war on lead poisoning here in this state. We have got to bring this thing to a close. So I appreciate all the effort and to lift the advocacy and the education and the enforcement. We thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next month, same time, same back channel, first Thursday in the month. And we invite you to come in person and be in humanity with us at MDE. Thank you so much. Take care.